body part are we going in first with this week?
Do we have to, my body? It's just not ready for this news. It's just not ready, and I don't appreciate the knees or the elbows or anything. Frankly, I think you should just calm down.
I'm going to make it relevant this week. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There will be no surprises. It's going to be fine. No distended parts of the anatomy. Don't worry about it. Cool.
Okay, fine. I'm trusting you.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Game Buzz, the weekly podcast from dealspwn.com, and this week we are diving gamepad first into the week's news. Yes, with a protective shield of Nintendo awesomeness. This will become relevant just after we do the introductions. I'm Matt Gardner. I'm joined once again by Jonathan Lester.
Nice foreshadowing, dude.
Oh yeah, and Carl Phillips.
I approve of this message.
Damn straight. Let's talk Fatal Frame.
Yes, or Project Zero, depending on like what region of the world you live in. But yeah, apparently a Fatal Frame game is coming to Wii U, which is awesome for several reasons. Like the first reason is a game is coming to the Wii U.
Woohoo!
That's a big deal, and we love games coming to Wii U. We love being able to talk about games coming to the Wii U. You might have noticed that we haven't been able to do that much of late, but also, it's just the perfect platform for a Fatal Frame game. It is the platform that Fatal Frame has been crying out for. Because, as you know, Fatal Frame is all about having to use a sort of camera obscura to look directly at and see and detect horrible, terrifying ghosts in the environment and then capture them. Yep. And it's genius, because in most horror games, you want to run away. Like, you want to run away from the bad, evil ghosts and hide.
I will run away.
Exactly, right? I will run away from ghosts, but you can't, and you can't. Yeah, there's just no room for calls in Fatal Frame, because you have to look at them. It forces you to look at them with that camera and like experience them in horrific, terrifying, gory detail.
Yep.
And that obviously would work brilliantly well on the gamepad, right?
It would work fantastically well. We've been saying this for so long. We need some games that really, really leverage that unique device. And this is, well, this is it. This is it. I'm really excited for it.
Because you know what? I love the gamepad. I do. I think it's one of my, apart from Miiverse, it's my favourite thing. Oh, and the wonderful 101. It's my favourite thing about the Wii U. And it should be so easy for developers to use, because even the laziest ones should be able to just put some buttons, like we used to do with Sidewinder joysticks, just put some macros on the gamepad screen for like stuff we need to do that requires a few button presses. Easy peasy. Like, you know, Assassin's Creed 3 had a horse button that you pressed and your horse came along without a whistle. Easy peasy. And games should be able to use it. Like we've seen Zombie U, they used it as the inventory screen. It was like super immersive and made you become incredibly paranoid. But devs haven't been using it. It's become a gimmick. It's become completely ignored, to the extent that even first-party Nintendo games like Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Rehashed Bullshit, and I'm pretty sure that's his name.
That is his
name. Even New Super Mario Brothers U. Super Mario World. New 3D Super. You know the one with cats.
Mario Kart.
The one with the cat suit Mario. Didn't really use it to any great extent. Like Donkey Kong didn't use it at all. And Super Mario 3D World, that's the one, only used it for a handful of tiny, totally forgettable, unnecessary and skippable gimmicks. So it's no wonder that developers are just not using it in any great capacity. So this is it. This Fatal Frame needs to be the game that shows devs that you can use it for loads of really cool stuff, especially because the gamepad has a rear-facing camera, which could like suddenly cut to showing you on the screen and a fucking ghost behind you.
That would actually, I would soil myself.
That'll fuck you up, right?
That would be terrifying, and I want it. I want you to scare me.
Wait, I've got an idea. Basically that, but the ghost is always Reggie.
Yes.
Oh man.
I like French food.
Yep, right there. Oh my god.
Also, yeah, like I really want to see a 3DS spin-off that's basically Face Raiders, only with terrifying ghosts. Anywhere you are, that'd be awesome.
That would really work.
That'd really work, I think. But yeah, the problem is though that this is Tecmo Koei we're talking about, they sometimes produce good games, and sometimes they're shit merchants. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of side of the divide that Fatal Frame comes down on. But they are trying to make this transmedia. They're even bringing out a film, and there are going to be other tie-ins too. So hopefully they're going to make a really good fist of this one. And hell, it's always great to see new survival horror games.
Damn straight. And yeah, this is inventive enough to really, really bring some positivity to the Wii U. It's a new game. We're excited for that, but it's new mechanics, like technology being used in really interesting fashion. We just haven't seen that enough. You're right, from the gamepad. Even Nintendo themselves have struggled to do this.
Really struggled.
But yeah, that front-facing camera, man. Oh, just juxtaposing ghosts in the game world with the potential for ghosts in your world.
Yeah, see, you see that parade you're having right now. Looks like a really fun parade, man. You got like,
oh man, I've got like trombones.
Yeah, man, I see it.
Floats.
And the trumpets, they go.
Yeah, and
they go.
There's like a dance.
Down
dancers,
the pan.
like
So
carnival.
yeah, what's that? Is that a cloud up there?
No.
There's a cloud. Is that a cloud forming up? Oh dear. I think it might be spitting slightly.
It can't be. I forgot my umbrella.
Because well, that's a shame because it's freaking downpour time because none of this has actually been confirmed. The problem is that this is common sense for absolutely everyone can see that Tecmo Koei needs to do this, but they haven't confirmed whether or not they will. So it's possible that they might just ignore the gamepad screen out of hand. We really hope they don't. And obviously they shouldn't, and anyone with half a brain would use it, and also it's AR functionality, so yeah, fingers crossed for this one. I'm not like totally soaking your parade just yet. Like, keep making merry, like make the most of it while you can.
I'm gonna be
But
honest.
yeah, at least they're working on this in conjunction with Nintendo, and Nintendo are really keen on quality control. I hope they're going to be breathing down their neck the entire time.
That would be helpful. As a sidebar, I think we need a segment called John's motherfucking downpour.
Yeah,
Carl, we can work on the title. Where Carl, you and I can get excited about stuff, and John just comes in and
I don't want to be that. I don't want to
rains on our parade.
I don't want to be the rainmaker all the time.
You're bringing the rain.
Because I'll be like, I'll put on my poncho. Do your worst.
I don't want to be. No, I don't want to be the angry pedant all the time. Maybe we can rotate. Rotating pedantry.
Yes, we can share the ponchos.
A lazy Susan of pedantry.
Yeah, pedantry. A carousel of pedantry.
Right.
Yep.
I think you'll find actually that pedantry is not actually a tangible object, and therefore you can't have a carousel made of it.
Womp womp.
Womp, womp, womp. Well, hopefully we won't be making those noises about Fatal Frame Wii U if it ever exists, comes to pass, does actually make it. Hopefully it'll be awesome. Let's talk about some other stuff that we hope will be awesome. Really hope will be awesome. Let's talk about Dragon Age Inquisition, which was in the news this week with a brand spanking new trailer that really, really hammered home just how much BioWare seemingly want to make this game look like every other Western RPG.
Wait! No, it had dragons and a lone survivor of a horrific accident with a great destiny and more dragons though. Dragons. I mean, dragons are cool and swords and things and like foreboding and things.
That's true.
Now, don't get me wrong. It looks really shiny. I think we can give it that. It looks super shiny. It's good that it's transgen as well. Although it really doesn't need to be because there's almost certainly going to be no save file transfer functionality at all. Therefore, it probably could have just been a next-gen game. But, yeah, it looks the business, and it looks fun if generic. But as you wrote and as we've all been saying, Inquisition, I think Inquisition's going to be either for some people it's going to be a hard sell, and for other people it's almost going to be almost like a chance for BioWare to redeem themselves a little bit.
Yeah, Carl, I'm interested to hear what you thought of this, because you actually reviewed Dragon Age 2. You liked it.
I did.
More than I did, which you
apparently apparently I liked it more than the internet generally. Because
what's your take on Inquisition thus far? Because BioWare are saying the right things.
Yeah, they say a lot of things, frankly. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen the game in action bar about a 10-minute clip that they showed in sort of Poland or something like that, and that's about it. Like the gameplay, well, the trailer that we saw didn't really show any gameplay. You know, we're getting a few characters back that we may recognize from previous games, and that's about it. There's not really much I could tell you based on that trailer. If you're asking me whether I am sort of like looking forward to Inquisition, yes.
Okay.
It's that simple. I mean, to be fair, I feel like I'm going to be facing an uphill struggle because John doesn't give a crap about it, and you had very strong words for Dragon Age 2. So I mean, there's not really much else I can say other than that, because I just
think it's great that all three of us like there's a spectrum between like excited and hatred. And I'm right there in the middle with apathy, because the thing is, I didn't hate Dragon Age 2. Like, on its own merits, it was an all-right kind of RPG. I mean, its setting was totally uninspiring, and they kept recycling it, and the story didn't go anywhere. And but it was okay. I really liked the combat. I really liked the combat. And I liked a few of the characters in it, I guess, but I can't remember any of them. And also there was that awesome Witch Hunt DLC that you loved so much, Matt, and that you thought was amazing.
I will break things.
Yeah, so you really enjoyed that, I seem to remember. And the thing is, it's in and of itself, like I think I come down kind of pretty much agreeing with your review, dude. I don't think it's not an awful game. I don't think anyone could argue that it was an awful game. The problem is that it was a sequel. The problem is then when I think back, because Dragon Age Origins and Awakening built an amazing world to live in and be in and crafted it fantastically. For me, it did for sort of Tolkien-esque fantasy what Mass Effect did for sci-fi. It created this really great, really interesting world that was kind of familiar. Yeah, it's new in loads of exciting ways. And it made you a character with their own real history that you created from scratch and who had a real place in that world and who was you.
And gave you choice amongst the races as well.
Absolutely.
And did interesting things with those well-worn
and all of that stuff. And for me, the problem is that Dragon Age 2 just didn't go anywhere. Didn't take that anywhere. It could have let us import our characters easily. We were able to do so with Awakening. There's no reason why we couldn't have continued the adventure in Dragon Age 2. It didn't. It sidelined them completely. It basically just didn't let us explore any of the world apart from that, like, one city. And it just completely... It killed my... not just excitement, but really just interest in the series. I can't really A, remember anything that happened in Dragon Age 2, or B, really care about what happens to it next.
Yeah, because
I'm not. The thing is, I didn't hate Dragon Age 2, but I'm not at all excited to see what happens to that universe now in Inquisition.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like in Mass Effect, you really saw over the course of those 3 games how choices you made right at the start affected things. Let's ignore the ending, but sort of up to the ending, and sort of that the grand narrative was really nicely interwoven. Those characters were really well drawn and with you throughout the story. So the story you start in Mass Effect 1 has enormous bearing on Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. Things matter. You are part of this enormous epic, and Dragon Age Origins set all that up really nicely. Really nicely.
As did Awakening, which was like one of the best expansions of last gen. But then it came out, same characters, even bigger decisions.
But then it's all reduced to an afterthought, to a little passing aside in Dragon Age 2, and you get none of the choice that you had in Origins, none of that expanse. You don't get a sense of the world because you're trapped in Kirkwall, which is bollocks. And You're right. You're right. In and of itself, Dragon Age 2 is not a bad game. You can't call it.
Not at all.
It's not a bad game at all. But like as I wrote in that article, I'm not sure I've been in love with any of the games BioWare has released under EA, in the way that I was with the stories they told beforehand. And I think I can't. They've denied it vehemently, but there is a sense with the games that have been released since they came under the EA umbrella, that the stories they've been telling just haven't been as good. And the games they've been releasing, while tuned up in terms of action, have lost something in terms of
because that's
depth,
what
genre mechanics and soul.
But you know what? They're totally aware of that right now. I mean, like they've seen the forums, they've seen the reviews, they've seen the press attention. I'm sure they're going to really try and knock it out of the park with Inquisition. And I'm sure that it's going to be a competent little game. The problem is I'm just personally couldn't care less. It can do what it wants, but it's going to have to. I don't know, Carl. If you end up reviewing it and say that it's super great, hell, I'm always in the market for an awesome RPG, and I'll probably get involved. But
I like how I'm apparently the one who's going to be reviewing it.
You're the kingmaker, dude. But like otherwise, I'll just wait for like Pillars of Eternity.
And
The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Just getting back onto the whole sort of like trailer thing. I mean, yes, it was generic, but then again, it's almost kind of like the whole Bioshock Infinite cover thing. It's not really for us. It's for people who they want to try and target as like, again, I know we don't like using the label, but casual gamers. It's like, oh look at all this action. It's available elsewhere, but we're doing.
And I like the trailer, to be honest, and more to the point. I don't know if you think back. Do you remember the original Dragon Age trailers? They were full of grinding rock music.
Yeah, it was like
nothing's changed, and you know what? Those trailers were great too.
Yeah, that was all generic, all dragons. Oh, people climbing up a mountain. Oh, now they're fighting people. Yeah, exactly. So it's nothing new. I just think that perhaps we need to calm down a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong that the backlash was justified, I feel, but yeah, let's just calm the hell down.
I mean, I agree. You can't take a huge amount from the trailer. And BioWare have been saying the right stuff. They were saying they're going to make it more expansive. They're saying that your relationship with characters won't be predicated on gifts anymore. It'll be more organic. It'll come through the decisions you make in terms of scenarios within the plot, within the story, within the narrative. And that's a great thing. And do you know what? I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'd love this to be awesome. Deliver, please. Because I want to play an awesome RPG this October. And yes, please, Inquisition. But I do feel they have something to prove.
Absolutely.
But I hope they do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Inquisition. Let's move on to something even bigger. Let's move on to COD 2014, because we got a little something this week from Sledgehammer.
Yeah, little being the well, actually no, Sledgehammer being the operative word, because I wanna be your Sledgehammer. Oh, dum dum. Why don't you call my name? Yes, I just love singing that song.
We are
at all
available.
times.
For
I am
for
totally
weddings.
available. All of it, weddings, like funerals, even wakes. I do it all. It's all there. Like, got to make ends meet. But yeah, so Sledgehammer have revealed a picture of what this year's Call of Duty might look like, or at least what a single character in this year's Call of Duty might look like, or what the face of a single character in this year's Call of Duty might look like.
Man, it's a face.
It's a face, and my goodness, it's shiny in any sense of the phrase. It's super detailed. It looks fantastic. Is it running on a new engine? Let's hope so, because the fine detail there looks great. Probably running on like as a static model on an incredibly powerful PC,
Yes.
and like a very nice controlled environment. But at least okay, it doesn't really tell us anything.
It's a face.
It's a face.
It's a really shiny face.
It's a super shiny face.
It's super shiny. Right. So in the absence of actual information, what would you like to see from Sledgehammer this winter with Call of Duty? What are some of the things we'd like to see Sledgehammer do?
Well, I think, first of all, this is their big chance. I mean, they're finally able to step out the shadow of Infinity Ward and Treyarch, who they've helped with all of their Call of Duties, and they can do one themselves. So they've got to go big or go home. This is crunch time for them. And I think, personally, that they could go one of two ways. Like, either they could, try and make a very different Call of Duty that adds some interesting new gameplay elements and or is set in a new imaginative setting, which doesn't appear to be happening by the looks of that incredibly generic soldier that they've shown us the picture of. But I feel like they could perhaps try and add new stealth or tactical elements to the game. They could go to a much more futuristic setting like Treyarch tried to do in Black Ops 2. They could try and inject a new meta game and new sort of mechanics into the single player experience while sort of providing the same sort of mental multiplayer that we all enjoy, like pushing the series somewhere different. Or they could pull it right back. Because like all the Call of Duty games over the last few years, especially those the Modern Warfare series, have tried to be bigger and bigger and more explosive and more ridiculous than the last. I mean, a lot of people call it spectacle creep, and I really like that term because they went from a very, the original game was bombastic, but it was also thoughtful and grounded in a way that its sequels really aren't. And the series is really, I mean, Modern Warfare 3 and Ghosts are a parody effectively of themselves, so they could pull it back. That's what I'm saying. Sledgehammer could pull it back, make it about the soldiers, make it about real authentic warfare. I think that'd be a totally legit way for the series to go.
Or we can just have an entire level like where you play as dogs.
Snoop Dogg.
So you got an army of dogs on one side, an army of dogs on the other, and they go at it. Basically.
Yeah, all voiced by Snoop Dogg.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Well, no, because they're already doing that. They need to build on that, and we keep forgetting about Dre. This would be a perfect opportunity.
Oh God,
to
yeah.
get him in there. Like Snoop versus Dre, or Biggie versus Pac.
I was gonna say Dre and Snoop never fight.
No. You'd have to have East versus West.
Yeah, but yeah, like we've seen a face, and that's about it. And I'm fairly sure we saw something very similar for the last, for Ghosts. So
there was absolutely a face.
Yeah, absolutely. And it had look at the detail, look at the shine, look at the beards, like the facial hair on this, the stubble. It's like, yes, well, we saw this last time, and there wasn't really that much of a huge improvement. So I'll wait for them to actually show some gameplay.
Yeah, I'd love to see them pull the series back a little bit, because the thing is, trying to go more bombastic each time. The last few campaigns have been a bit flat. Call of Duty is always going to sell brilliantly because its multiplayer is fantastic. That is a given. But I want to see the first Modern Warfare was cinematic. It had set pieces, but they all served what was actually a really good story. In the end, and lots of game feels in that game. Lots of game feels.
Yeah, delivered through gameplay as well. It was great.
And they didn't go overboard like Medal of Honor tried to do in trying to capture realism and hardcore realism. That's not what we want from Call of Duty. But you can make a decent. It's like war films, right? You can make a blockbuster war film that has feels. Saving Private Ryan, for example. Although ironically, Medal of Honor did actually do that first. I'd like to see them pull it back, make it as you say, a little bit more about the stories, a more personal story, perhaps. It'd be very interesting to see what they do. I just think trying to go bigger and better. Eventually, you're right. It's just gonna become an endless stream of parodies, and I don't want.
But you know what? Pretty much, I'm not hugely excited about this year's Call of Duty. That might change. I'm mainly excited to see what happens when Treyarch are loosed onto next-gen consoles. Because for my money, Treyarch do the business. Like their Call of Duty games are the bollocks. Like they've got the great multiplayer, they've got the awesome co-op, they've got really cool over the top storylines, they've got imaginative campaigns, great set pieces. And we're gonna have to wait till 2015.
But in that time, it will be like, hopefully, it won't necessarily be generation bridging. Like, hopefully by that time, it'll be all about the next gen, no compromising, no having to create a game that works brilliantly with last gen systems. All focus on next gen, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping for Treyarch's game.
Sick.
And that'd be awesome.
So like, yeah, so we want big, as Carl says, we want armies of dogs. I think we can let's iterate on this now. Let's pull it together.
Army of two dogs.
We want an army of but not army of two though.
But maybe.
That's all. Not that.
No, it'd just be super
Back to back dogs. Air guitaring dogs.
But with a very intimate, believable, grounded storyline. I mean, we want to know about these dogs.
Lassie.
We want to
intimate dogs. I
dogs.
don't know.
Lassie.
We want it
Call
to
of
be
Lassie.
very believable. You know, very grounded.
Like...
And also the dogs fly helicopters.
Well, yeah, they airdrop in. Like,
yeah.
Well, actually, there was that video of a dog driving a car. They can pilot machinery. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
everything will be fine.
Everything's going to be totally fine. That's what we want. Also, Dre.
Well,
or just it's some East Coast versus West Coast bullshit. Definitely that. Right. Before we go, this week saw the 25th anniversary of the Game Boy's release in Japan, and we done a little article on this, but I just wanted to get some highlights from you chaps, some Game Boy memories.
Oh, Game Boy memories. My main memory of the Game Boy is not having a Game Boy and all my friends having a Game Boy and desperately saving every penny I had to get a Game Boy. That's like the main one, and I did, and it was great. Probably completing Pokemon Red, and then eventually getting Mew in like the most one-sided trade. I mean, I'm pretty sure the dude had loads of Mews. I think he'd cloned them using the link cable trick. But you know the one. No, I don't know if it was the missing no one. That
was item replication.
One. Yeah. That was the one that buggers up your Hall of Fame. But completing that game was absolutely amazing. I was addicted to it, and then in my downtime, I was playing like Tetris, Blues Brothers, Micro Machines was always just amazing. Man, like just generally turning like long journeys or boring waiting times into like fantastical, wonderful worlds. Like honestly, like some of the long road trips, like the car journey was often the best bit because you'd have your Game Boy and it was amazing.
It was wicked.
Yeah, man.
I always like the way, like, you know, we talk about there are two things I remember about the Game Boy. We talk about these days about handhelds and battery life and durability. You could throw that thing at the wall, and one thing would always come off.
The bezel
would always come off, but everything else would be completely fine. The bezel would come off if you like shook it a bit, quite frankly. But yeah,
if you breathe on it.
Yeah, just look at it funny. Oh, whoops. Oh, I slipped. But yeah, you needed 4 AA batteries to begin with, but man, again, those batteries gave you some juice. And that was the thing. Nintendo cobbled the Game Boy together from bits that cost very, very little. The whole design philosophy behind it was, let's make it really cheap and cheerful, and they did, and it worked brilliantly. And it couldn't hold a candle in terms of like sort of graphical quality or color displays to like the links.
Yeah, and I mean you had to literally hold a candle up against it to like see what you were doing.
Sometimes you do, especially if you were running out of battery. But do you know what? I like that as well. Which then
melt the glue holding on the bezel, and it's all just
But I did like that as well. Like it didn't just stop working; it would just slowly fade out if you were losing battery. And then sometimes you could fix that just by turning it off and on again.
Oh yeah.
Man. But yeah, Link's Awakening was probably my favourite game. That and Final Fantasy Legend 2. I loved the Final Fantasy kind of side series that popped up on the Game Boy in the and Sword of Mana, which was Final Fantasy Adventure. Like, I absolutely adored those games. They were cracking. Carl, how about you? I know you didn't have one, but do you have a Game Boy memory?
Well, it's not going to be anywhere near as exciting as anything you two have just like regaled. But yeah, like I didn't have one, but my stepbrother did, and I'd play like Tetris and Super Mario on there, and it was always good fun. It was just simple pick up, play, easy stuff. So, yay for Game Boy.
We love you, Game Boy.
Happy birthday, Game Boy.
Happy birthday, Game Boy.
We love you, Game Boy.
Make love to me, Game Boy.
No. The bezel will fall off.
And on that note,
are we doing winners and losers?
Oh shit, winners and losers.
Well, loser of the week is pretty obvious.
Is it?
Yeah, it's super obvious. Loser of the week is Zenga, and by extension, Don Matrick.
Oh, God, what's happened with him?
Don Matrick. Yeah, well, Don Matrick succeeded in his mission to completely screw up the Xbox brand, jumped ship to Zanga, and now Zanga have released their financial reports, and they're losing a whole bunch of money. Like, their revenue's down 36%. They made a net loss of $61 million. And Matrix there saying, yeah, well, Zanga Poker's is showing quite good quarterly growth, and the mobile audience maybe is growing a bit, and TV, so great. I'm going to watch the TV right now. And there's sort of a bit of reaping and sowing going on right now, so you lose.
I'm not sure I can feel too bad for Zynga.
I have trouble sympathizing hugely with them, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, a company that sort of allegedly pilfers ideas and games from other people and crushes them. I'm not. No.
Yeah. Oh no, what a shame.
Oh well. Winner of the week though, Game Boy.
Obviously, Game Boy.
Game Boy.
Obviously.
Happy birthday, Game Boy. Have one on us. Except you can't drink.
So we'll drink it for you.
So we'll
No, it probably would still work. If I poured some scotch into a Game Boy, it would probably still work. The bezel would fall off.
Oh yeah, sure.
But it would still work.
Dillspone does not recommend that you cover your Game Boy in scotch.
That's a waste of good scotch.
Yes.
Yeah, pour it inside the casing.
Yes.
And then drink it out of it.
Yeah. Don't waste it. Don't pour it down the outside.
No.
Waste a good scotch.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We will catch you next time for another troll through the week's news. This has been the Game Buzz. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Just.
Oh God.
I think you went too far. You're like, have a wonderful weekend. It's like, no,
Man,
no.
I wish people a good weekend, and John just like flipped
No.
out. Oh man.
Goodwill to our listeners.
Broken John with goodwill. See, he does rain on people's parade. He is the rain bringer.
Rainmaker.